got my earbuds and nothing's open.
Okay, we have shown up. How come I haven't shown up? What happened to mine? I'm not showing.
We're going to work it out. Well, it says live, so where are you not showing up?
Okay, your picture's on. My picture is off.
I'm seeing it.
There it is. It's not showing up live.
Can you refresh your screen?
Okay. Okay, guys. Ooh, this is pretty cool. I can be incognito the entire night. I'm going to remove all of the slides. This is funny. Okay, I am really sitting here. I swear I'm sitting here.
And you're
Okay,
not
where's
showing
Johnny when I need him? He had the same problem too. Oh, there I am.
I see you. You're on my
I know.
screen.
We're here. I'm here.
Okay.
That's funny. Oh man, I thought I could be like a ghost in just the voice. Hi everybody. Technical problems. I kept thinking of what Johnny was saying about cameras last night, and I'm like, oh, mine decided to do that today.
Oh,
Hello.
no,
Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How do you guys like the time change? I feel like going to bed for a nap.
I'm getting a frozen screen for you now. You seem to be frozen.
Mm-hmm. I see that, which is interesting. Since I'm on Ethernet cable, which has a speed of about 1,000, it's going to be one of those kinds of days.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me open it again. Hello. Barbara's moving around. My screen is frozen. Okay, anybody out there in the reality of YouTube or Facebook, can you tell me if you can hear me? Because if not, I am going to end it and start it again. Except I think if I end it, we lose it. That could be a problem. Okay. Yeah, I'm completely frozen.
I see you move now. You're good.
Okay. Cynthia, thank you. Of course you can hear me. The screen was completely black.
Oh.
Yeah, we're looking at each other, Barbara, in StreamYard. I'm looking at Facebook and YouTube, and I was completely black and frozen. Okay, I think we're on. I think we're on. I think we're on. Good grief. Muggles messed around with time this morning. And then the sun had to get in on the act with a few solar flares. Yay! This is going to be interesting.
And then the sun had to get in on the
act with a few solar that's flares. You.
I just
turn the volume down or whatever that was. I'm a little out of focus. I'm going to try the other camera. Let's see if that'll work. La-di-da-di-da, dee-doo-boo-be-dee, boo-boo. Let's try the built-in one. I thought you got half my face. Okay, that's definitely out of focus. Okay, that one might work. Boop, 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 boop. How's that? Can you see me? I am moving. Okay, I'm moving. You, the room in here, I'm all rearranged because the skylight, which is over there in that direction, is cracked all over the place. So I removed the sound table, the crystal bowls, the metal bowls, and put a big tarp down until he can fix it tomorrow. It's always an exciting moment in this house.
Wow. It's just, it seems one after another. Crazy.
I know. Can you tell it's trying to get rid of me?
Yeah. The universe is definitely saying, you're not staying here. Don't even
think about it. It's time to move. You don't have another year here.
No. And sooner the better. Get out.
I've got to find a place first. Okay, guys. Are we live? Are we back in focus? Hi, Annette.
Thank you for the feedback, ladies. And
I know, because we can't tell what's going on this end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change sound settings. Barbara's going to mute her mic, and I'm going to do some heart math. Get everybody present and focused. Okay. Heart math, musical style. Put your hand on your heart chakra and breathe. And relax your shoulders and your back and your face. And slow your rate of breathing down. And just sink into your body and into your lungs and into your heart. Breathe into a place of compassion or gratitude. And expand that in your lungs, in your heart. And then with a good deep breath, breathe that up into your brain. So heart is calling to the head. As they come into harmony, the frequency of compassion and gratitude connect head and heart and imbue you with that frequency, that harmony. And if you have any left over, you blow a bubble out the front and the back of your heart chakra and just offer it up into the field. As a broadcast, as a radiation, just breathing it out like you're blowing pink bubbles out of your heart, so that any who need it know intuitively to scoop it. Take a few more breaths and come back into your room and center. Yeah. All right, I think I'm here now. Yay! Yay!
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, I'll tell you, I like starting with music. It helps me ground.
Absolutely.
So, beautiful, beloved ones on Facebook and YouTubular, I have brought on a good friend of mine by the name of Barbara Gale. And I'm going to let you tell us what you do, but it was really funny the other day. We were just sort of on StreamYard talking, or on Zoom. I don't even know what we were on, but we were online talking because you're in Dallas and I'm up here in Arkansas. And, we were talking about reading palms. So, of course, I'm sitting here like, hey, can you read that? Barbara's like, of course. So I was asking mini Reese's cups. Oh, Paisley. Yum. I was asking Barbara if we could do something a little experiential, just so we could play today. So we're learning how to do slides, etc., on StreamYard, which we'll see how that works.
Yeah.
And just thank you for joining me.
Oh, what a pleasure. We had so much fun the other day. We were really looking forward to doing this just to have fun.
And, I know, we need a fun break. It's been extremely serious.
Yeah, we need breaks.
We need breaks.
So for your entertainment, everyone, today we'll play with hands, and maybe you will learn about your own. So what does that say?
It says, I love you. It's my I love you
okay.
cup for everybody out there. And it has tea in it, since I don't have peanut butter cups.
I couldn't quite make it out. Thank you.
Awesome. So tell us what you call what you do, because you're not just palm reading, you're doing all kinds of really cool, expansive stuff. So tell us.
Well, most people have not heard about what I do, which is not palmistry in itself the way people most likely have heard of palmistry. It's not fortune telling. What I call it is scientific palmistry, because it is rooted in the science of looking at all of the lines in the hands and seeing that consistently when you have this line in your hand, this is the experience that you're having based on the consciousness that created the line in the hand. So we have more neurotransmitters and lines showing up in our hands that are connected to our brain than any other part of the body. So all of these lines that show up in our hands are actually telling us what's happening in our brain, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. And so the study of it.
Question right there.
Yes. Yes.
Are these lines created by the genetics or by the thinking consciousness that we grow into?
There's a combination of both, in that if you look at the hand shape that you've chosen to do this personality with, that's part of our personality, and the lines in our hands also add to the personality. Our behaviors and our strengths, our weaknesses all show up in the hands and the hand shape. And then I also, what's unique about my readings is that I combine the fingerprints, and the fingerprints are embedded before we're born, and they stay the same our whole life. So I look at these as two different parts of the map. The personality aspect is the hand shape and the lines, and the fingerprints as the soul's map and agenda. And you chose this personality to make that happen. And so they're always working together to bring us into our highest expression of our soul's agenda. And the soul chose, it's amazing. I've been doing this for 12 years, and every hand kind of has such a surprise of what we signed up for, We have an opportunity to grow in as our potential in that fingerprint map, but we have to do some soul growth with our personality to grow into those aspects of ourselves. So it's a roadmap of our potential, if you will, and our psychology. So to answer your question, I think some of it's genetic. I mean, when I look at hands in families, you'll see some things that say I'll have a mother and her daughter, and they'll both have water and fire in their hands, but maybe they have it opposite. Maybe they have the water hand shape and a fire personality, and the other will have a fire hand shape and a water personality. So challenging for them to show up and understand each other exactly, but they do mimic each other in a lot of ways as well, and understanding which is. So we all have a combination of 4 different kinds of elements.
Is this my cue?
Pardon me?
You want me to pull up one of the pictures now?
Sure. Okay. Let's look at the hand shape picture. When we have air, water, earth,
okay, the one that is just line drawing, or the one that's brush tone?
Perfect.
Line
Line
drawing.
drawing
Okay.
is good. Yes. So for those who
on.
are watching, we can look at, when I start to read a poem, I first identify what is the shape of the poem, because that tells us, the elements. And so look at your palm, the width of your palm, and then look and see if it's longer from top to bottom or if it's more square. The two top ones in this example are square, and the two bottom ones are rectangle.
Rectangle.
Now, most fire hands are rectangle, but they are irregular. So it's a little harder to see it. Sometimes they're irregular round, sometimes they're irregular at an angle that's hard to read. But so if you look at that aspect first, that's the first thing you want to determine. Do you have a square hand or long palm? And Jody's hand, which is, she's volunteering for us to read today, is a long palm. I'm going to show you mine. I have a very long palm. I have what I call a shoebox. And so first determine whether you have a square palm or a long palm. And then you look and see whether your fingers are 3/4 of the length. So you would take your bottom of your finger and the top of your finger, and then move it down to the palm so that you can see, is that about 3/4 of the palm? Or if it's shorter, you may have a shorter finger. So in your case, and fire hand, I do feel like your predominant element is fire. So you have a shorter finger than the palm. So the attribute for a shorter finger is that y'all have the ability to be real instinctive and have a very short take on things. It's like you have a rapid processor. You know what's going on immediately, and it's instinctual.
And that's fire.
That's fire. And you can follow that instinctual part. And you also have the shortness of the finger tends to not have a lot of patience for anything that takes a long time.
Okay. For those who were watching last night when we were doing the World Central Kitchen fundraiser, I think there was a point where I was informing everybody that what I lacked the most of was patience, and it was just too late to get it. See, it's in my hand.
It's part of your nature. And fire hands have the ability to work on that instinct and that rapid take on things, and they're really good at taking charge and really being able to delegate to others often. And they're often put in a position of management.
Rather than just focus just on my hand, Barbara, can you give us some traits of each element so that people who are out there who are looking at your hands can get a sense of what you are?
Yes. So fire first, we're talking about your short, quick, clever, instinctual. And fire hands are kind of fearless in that they go for what they want. They want what they want. They want it now, and they're rapid. They want results right now.
Yeah.
And they're most difficult. Their weakness is having patience for everybody else that's not on the same page as they are. Okay. And so let's look at water. I have a lot of water in my hand. Next to it in the diagram on the right is a long, narrow palm with long, narrow fingers. And often a water, I'm actually exaggerated air and water. So water fingers are real slender and sometimes look kind of like seaweed. They look very narrow. Mine are not as narrow as a lot of waters. Mine are more air. So water is a feeling key. The key to them is feeling. They're sensitive to everything, and they feel everybody. And they're also a psychic hand because they're so sensitive, they're empathic. So each of us have kind of an intuitive gift, but it shows up a little different. And it's interesting to see how it shows up different. So the attributes of water are, you have an introspective approach to things. So life stimulates you and you want to take it in and become making it into poetry or a song or a painting, or you feel it and then you express it. So most of our talented actors, musicians and songwriters they have a water element. So they're very emotional, and they're I want to say very creative. They make good artists, poets, musicians, and they need some variety. They're also very visionary, and they need a little support often with another element to be able to handle the trials of life, because water struggles with having the strength to really handle all of the ups and downs of life. It's harder for them to stand up and manage life like everybody else. So let's move to Earth. Earth is a shorter palm, a squarer palm. You usually see this one as a rounder, more fullness in the fingers and fullness in the palm. I'm going to show you a picture. I hope that you can see this.
Yeah.
So you can see the fullness of the shapes of the fingers. This is a square palm with a short finger. Now, also an earth hand will have less lines in it. They'll have predominant, strong, very deep lines, but very few. And earth is very practical, dependable, wants to be accountable. Earth is a builder's hand. They want to produce things. They want to create things, produce things, and they love to be a part of something bigger than they are. And they love to have a connection to nature. So these are our common laborers, our gardeners, our florists, our chefs. Their key is sensuality. And so they're emotionally stable. They're imaginative and kind of outdoorsy, but creative. And I would say they're the least intuitive of all of the three hand shapes, or all the four hand shapes. So let's go to air. Air is usually, it's portrayed here as a square palm. I see a lot of air with a longer palm, more like a rectangle. But airs often typically have a long finger on a square palm, and they have a very open way that they hold their hand. They hold it like this with all the fingers spread. They're very open, and they're the observer. And I feel like the key word for air is curious. We follow our curiosity into studying things, learning about things. We want to stimulate and find the meaning of things. And so we're all about finding out about everything. And so here's what's key for everyone to be looking at their hands. We have a predominant flavor, if you will, that shows up as, our dominant element. And then often we have a secondary. So they're blended. And what you're looking at here are kind of pure types. So if you'll hold up your hand, you'll see that yours is most predominant fire, but you also have air in yours, which makes your fingers longer than a fire hand. So the combination archetype of a fire and air combination in the hand shape is the illuminator. So you have the archetype of being a way shower.
I have a question that just came in. Okay, do air do the 2 fingers on the cheek with the thumb under the chin? You mean like this, Paisley? Is this what you're talking about? Does it show you how you actually hold your hands in this at all?
I don't. No, I haven't studied that.
You haven't studied that?
Yeah. In other words, how you work with your hands? Yeah. No, I haven't really.
Yeah, because I never thought about it because it depends on what I'm doing.
I haven't studied that. I mean, I don't know how important it would be for people to know. So I haven't studied that.
Well, it's an interesting, if everything has meaning, it would mean something. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks, Paisley.
And I don't know which types talk with their hands more than others. I think that's a personality issue, more than an archetype, possibly.
Okay. Yeah, this is cool.
Airs are very good at, they want adventure. They want variety. So does fire. Fire wants something to change a lot. You want to experience everything in the moment. And so air and fire together are pretty spontaneous and adventurous, and they make good teachers. And all of those are attributes I see in you.
Yeah. Yeah, I one of my greatest dislikes in the world is to be bored. It's like if I get bored, it's like go create something different.
Yes. Yeah. And you have so many lines in your hands that are talking to you about your mental busyness, what you have to do. You are so talented in your mind and your strength in your mind that you can't be bored. You will sabotage yourself if you are bored, because you have some amazing lines in your hand. Well, let's look at the next slide, which is more on the hand shape, but it gives you a little bit of a picture of a hand.
Take a breath and let me get all this set up, because I'm going slow. Okay. We're going to do that. We're going to remove that. We're going to remove that, and then we're going to share the one that are flesh hands, correct?
Yes, the pictures of the hands. Perfect. You did it. Wonderful. So if you look at these are pictures of the same kind of elements. And again, these are pretty much pure types, which most of us don't have. But you can see the contrast between the water and the fire on either end. You can see the difference in the earth and the air. Does that make sense? A line drawing does not give you everything. Now, what I find is very interesting in this water hands look like that. They really look.
So which one's the one? Tell
tall,
us which
skinny,
element.
thin line, and very pink. Very pink.
So the one on the far right is the water hand.
Yes.
And what's the thinking hand?
And the feeling. And the thinking hand is air.
And then practical is earth.
What do you think the practical is?
Earth.
Yeah. And what do you think the intuitive hand is?
Would that be fire?
Yes.
Fire.
This one's fire. And do you see how this one's kind of irregular? You have a hard time seeing the squareness of the palm or the rectangular. Yeah. You see how it's rounded out? I see that commonly in fire hands. The other thing that's common in fire hands is their hands look dried out and kind of like they're chapped almost. Sometimes like there's layers coming off of your finger, of the surface of your hand. They look dry and like you're losing layers of skin.
We're molting.
And I see that
with radiation burns, I'm molting.
And it's a common thing I see in fire hands. So I think you all run really hot, so your skin comes off. You peel off the skin layers a lot.
That's interesting.
Which is interesting.
On this naturally.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
And so you can see with these examples, there's I don't know if you can see in the practical hand there, the square palm, the short fingers, there's a smoothness to the skin to this one. And a fire hand doesn't have anything like that. Real strong contrast. And of course, you're not very big here, so you can't see.
What happens, okay, as we age? Do the lines get more of them, or
I see a lot more busyness in the lines
as we age.
I see the tips of the fingers get a whole lot more lines in here. Like when I first took my fingerprints, you could see my prints. Now you cannot see my prints. I mean, I have so many lines in there. And that's the top digit of the finger represents our mental busyness and our mental thinking. So I have a combination of water and air, if y'all can see. I have a rectangular shaped palm, and I have long fingers. And my lines are actually fire lines. So I have a combination of three. Often we will, but the lines often are, if you have an air hand, you have air lines. If you have a fire hand, you can have water lines, you can have earth lines, you can have air lines. But that's another element that's kind of interesting to see how it shows up. And often it shows up just like astrology. Those three things.
We were talking about that because my sign is Scorpio, which is water, and my ascendant is fire, and my moon is, what is Libra? Is Libra air?
Libra's air.
Yeah, I don't have any earth in my sign, which
right. Yeah. And so often we learn a lot about when we look at the hand shape, what elements are there and then what's not there. And that aspect in my hand would be earth, only I do have an earth heart line, or a partial earth heart line. So the element that's missing in mine is earth. So everyone that's listening, look at the elements you think are there and look at what you don't have. Often we don't have the water. Often we don't have the earth. So let's go to, what other photos did I give you?
Okay, hang on. Let me remove that from the street. Make that smaller. There we go. This is really funny. To load a picture in StreamYard, you have to bring the picture in as if it was another guest.
Oh, interesting.
Totally bizarre. Okay, I've got my picture where you drew colored lines, and I've got fingerprint types.
Okay, let's look at fingerprint types real quick.
Okay, fingerprint types, and we're going to make that a big picture. There we go.
All right. So let's go into the fingerprint part of it. Most of us, very interestingly, have a combination of 4 different types of prints. And it's ranked on statistically how often they show up. So the most statistic prints show up as a loop. So 60 to 70% of fingerprints are loops. Then we have 34% are whorls. And the tinted arch and the arch are both like 6%. Somewhere between 6 and 10%. And so if you have all loops in your hands and you have 3 to 4 whorls, your whorls are going to be your outstanding strengths. And your loops become your lessons, unless you have an arch or a tinted arch. If you have an arch or a tinted arch in your hand, then they become your lessons because it's very interesting. So I look at the meaning on each finger, and each 10 digits has a different meaning. And I look at the pattern your fingerprints make on there, and I look at what your strengths are and your challenges to that. It gives me a pattern of what you're bringing into this lifetime. And then the hand shape and all the lines in your hands are telling me what your personality you gave yourself, what hand you gave yourself to play out this role. So in this case, I'm going to show you, this is what I do for everyone, a chart.
Mm-hmm.
And I put down what fingerprints, what the meaning is on your fingerprint chart. And then we go over each aspect of it. And
so you actually take the finger, like you would actually do the ink and take the fingerprints on all 10 fingers.
If I have the opportunity to. When I do a fair, I just use my magnifying glass and identify it because I'm doing a very quick reading. So I identify it with the magnifying glass. But my preferred way is to do a print just like these are on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then it gives me an opportunity to study it.
Yes.
And there's a lot of difference between when we ink it, it shows up real black and white where it's easier to blow it up and make it, really get the nuances in it. So we can go to your hand now.
Okay. Okay, let's see. We're going to remove this guest. So funny. Okay, remove that guest, remove it from the studio, and load the last picture. She drew funny colored lines on my hand.
Yes, ma'am. So
this is my right hand. My right hand is my left hand.
Yeah, this is your right? So I'm drawing these lines so that I can show you that major lines in the hands, most of us have. What?
I got my pointer ready.
Okay, good. All right, because I'm working with my mouse, like you can see that.
I know.
It's crazy. I'm trying to point at everything, and it's not working. I'm sure you're not seeing it. So most of us have a lifeline, which is kind of misunderstood, and that would be the purplish line that runs around your thumb. The lifeline is an indication.
Is it the one coming up from the wrist up, or is it?
Yes, and I'm not seeing your pointer, but.
Okay, the one that comes up from the wrist and then curves towards the
curves
thumb.
around, and it usually comes off of the thumb side, up at the middle of the hand. Okay. And then runs around down towards the bottom of the hand and runs around to the base of the thumb. And this is what I call a vitality line. We are demystifying the thoughts that the lifeline tells us in palmistry and folklore, how long you're going to live. It does not. Statistically, scientifically, is not proven that it does that.
So vitality instead of
vitality, yes. So in your case, yours is nice and round, and I had a very bad time trying to trace that line, and so it's real choppy. But your line's not choppy. It's my drawing that's choppy there. So look at.
I'm still here. I'm still alive.
Yes. So everyone, look at. Excuse my voice. Look at your vitality line on your hand, and see if it is kind of a curved, and or is it flattened out? Does it reach the bottom of the hand? Is it continuous line? Is it a continuous deep line, or is it a shallow line? All of those things have something to say about your vitality line. And so if it does not reach the bottom of the hand, often, and I see this often, you will have difficulty feeling grounded and secure. And yours goes to the bottom of the hand, no problem. Mine does. But I see an awful lot of them that are not very round. They flatten out, and maybe they'll have a full area there that they're flat. And often the person who has that line will experience life as trying to ride a bike on a flat tire. It just takes more effort. So
I have a question here as we're looking at lines. If if we have the knowledge of what one of our lines tells us, can we not erase the lines and start again, but can we fortify our lives so that,
absolutely.
For example, if I was the ungrounded one, I could work on being grounded more.
Yes. And and part of this is showing us kind of where our unconscious programming is. Like in my hand, I don't think you'll be able to see it on camera, but I'll try. I have a double line that looks like my lifeline, and I don't know if you can see it. Do you see?
Go up a little bit. Yeah.
I have one that comes on the inside of my lifeline that echoes it. In my case, and I don't see it very often, that deceives me in thinking I have an extra gas tank. And so I tend to go and go and go, not thinking I'm going to run out of gas. So my vitality ran out and I blew out my adrenals because I didn't have any way of seeing that that was not true. I just felt like I had, and I was very driven to, perform in ways that my body couldn't handle. But and we have things like this in our hand that do drive us. Another one is a Jupiter star, which I also have. So let's talk about lines. This is your lifeline. That lifeline we talked about is predominant, one that you come in with in life. And it's pretty much all of these lines I'm going to talk about are pretty firmly finished by about 14. They're a little malleable until about 14. So the next one I want to talk about is your headline. And it is between your finger and your thumb, and it comes from the thumb side of the hand, and it runs across the.
Give me the color on these.
And yours is purple, and it has two.
That would be across
the middle part of the hand.
Okay, so that darker purple color.
The darker purple.
Can you guys see the colors on the screen? I can. Okay.
And now you have two beginnings with this headline. So we'll talk about that. And then we have
right up there. Yeah.
And one is kind of echoing, and I'm not right on the line. I'm just kind of barely off of the line so that we can see it, so that I didn't cover your line up. But you have two beginnings of that line, and they're both significant. Do you see how straight your line is that goes across the hand?
Yeah.
It goes pretty much from the beginning of the hand, if you count where the lifeline is beginning. Yours starts there and goes all the way across the hand. And when it's long and straight, for those who have this, and a nice deep straight line, you have an ability to have they call it the Octopus Brain, because you have the capacity to multitask your mental capacities beyond what others can. I
come by this honestly.
And so you identifying with that? Okay, I can't see you. You're frozen again, so I'm not seeing you.
Yes, I'm identifying with this. Octopus Brain. There's a name for it.
There's a name for it. Well, the other thing is a HAL computer. You have a multitasking type super analyzer mental capacity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I agree.
Now, what's interesting also, and that wants to be used, and if you're not using it in the full capacity,
I'm bored.
And you can make up drama and other things to get yourself, because you have a solutions brain. So if you're not giving yourself massive things to solve, you're going to find something to occupy your brain.
I actually realized this a couple of decades ago. It was like, I need to really stimulate the creativity to keep myself happy.
It wants to be used. And I've seen an awful lot of people who have this ability that are not using their full capacity, and they are they're miserable. They're absolutely miserable. The sweet spot in your life is when you are actually giving yourself full capacity.
Okay, can you take a pause for 1 second?
Sure.
I'm going to ask you guys, can you see the photo that we're working on?
Yeah, we need to know that.
Yeah, can you see this photo? There's a photo of my hand with different color lines drawn on it. Are you guys seeing that at all? Or are we just the ones seeing it? Okay, thank you, Johnny. So what we're doing is we're going, I took a picture of my hand under a light, texted it or emailed it to Barbara, and then she drew colored lines on it so we can talk about all of these. Okay, good. So we're talking about the darker purple one that goes straight across my
the middle of the hand, right? And this is, everyone has a headline, and everybody's headline may look real different from this one. There's a variety of ways that it will look, and so, but it is and it can be different in both hands. I have two different ones.
Yeah, my hands are totally different. That's one thing I did see.
And so I'm just going over attributes of this so that people can understand your headline is got a personality of how you think. And let's talk real quickly about, you see the other origin of the purple line that goes inside your lifeline at the very top of towards the thumb
or above it.
There's one that goes above it, and there's one that goes over inside of that lifeline.
So the inside one is the below it. Okay.
Okay. It's a split there, and you have two origins of your headline. The one that is the lower, that's closer to the thumb, is in the Mars zone. And the Mars zone is a place of courage, bravery, and your origin there. You tell me if you, because it's hard to read you from a picture, but I'm assuming that this is just, you have a line there that's in your Mars zone, and this is someone who definitely resonates with debating both sides of every perspective and sees the view and wants to take up for the marginalized. And so we call this the advocate, because you have the capacity and the urge to go headstrong into warrior mode to fight for the marginalized.
And my goodness, I think I'm hiding well.
Yeah, it doesn't have to show, it doesn't show in everybody. Everybody does not know that about you, but it is in you now.
So I thought I was hiding the sword really well. I guess not.
Well, often it's our inner dialogue, but you have the capacity to be very assertive and with courage and bravery, take up your sword for a cause. And between that and your multifaceted system to analyze, you have a super mental capacity there.
Okay, I'm going to pause you again, because what an interesting comment that just came. One, Paisley left because she's not resonating with what we're doing. So let's make it a little more general.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Deania, and correct me if I'm wrong. I have an actual star in my left palm. When I lost my daughter, all the lines disappeared except that star. They came back when I got better, but it was strange. Have you ever seen something like that?
No, I have not. That's very interesting.
That is really cool.
I'd like to know where the star is. Well, back to general then, everyone also has a heart line. And the heart line is our emotional, and it's the one that's pink or kind of soft red in the top of the hand.
Above the lifeline.
Yeah, above the purple line. And it's a horizontal line that starts underneath your pinky finger and it runs across the hand, and it can have multiple endings. And the multiple endings meaning that I have to analyze where the ending is to determine which archetype you are. And in your case, you have a split, and then it goes off in two directions. And so I think you have an air heart line with a water aspect also. So, it's predominantly air, but it's also water. But before it splits, it's earth. And so you have all three.
You can tell that by looking at one line with a prong on it. You can tell all that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the earth is independent all the way, freedom first. Air is you want deep meaning and deep conversations, and you want to be of help to others. And both water and air are working on boundary issues. Most of us have very difficult time for a good portion of our life setting boundaries and not feeling like a victim. If we have an ending underneath our first finger.
And part of what I see in the healing practice that I have is most of the people I work with from childhood on, even if we're doing sophisticated shamanic work, in a healing practice, it still comes down to boundaries, whether it's energy boundaries or codependency recovery boundaries.
Yes.
That seems to be a theme with most humans I've met, is just setting appropriate boundaries.
And many of us came in with working on that aspect, and feelings has a lot to do with we having. When I look at how many people have loops in their hands, it makes me think, okay, these are the generations that are on the earth now that are actually dealing with feelings, because every generation before you were not able to talk about your feelings, feel your feelings, accept your feelings, register them. I mean, and how many of us grew up with parents that said, children are to be seen and not heard. So we have a lot of programming and conditioning around our feelings. And so many of us have self-esteem issues because we did not feel like we were ever heard or valued. And so all of those things do show up in the hand and help me to pinpoint how to help someone that's in front of me. I really have a record from their fingerprints, what they're here to work on, and the personality that they're working on it with. So it's a beautiful foundation and platform to be able to coach and help someone, because the hand really tells me what's the answer to whatever challenge is coming up I can identify the challenge and what the motivation of the challenge is.
This is like your astrological chart in a way, which I would go really well with it. That's going to point out the themes and the possibilities that show up in our hands, which gives us the work to do or the stuff to embrace. Is that the way it works?
Yes. And it just gives us a roadmap of it that's very visual. And it's also names our psychology in a way that helps people see it. For me, it was a language that helped me see the blind spots that I was unwilling to look at. And when I saw that, the blind spot is my turnaround pivot point, that's my weakness, that if I make into my strength as I master it, it's not, not trying to shy away from it, then, oh my gosh, it opens up everything else and my capacities and potentials in my hand. Well, that was an easy understanding of, okay, I'm going to work on this hurdle, let me face this hurdle.
It's interesting because some of the things you've pointed out, I can look back on without ever having my hand read like this. I can look back at the times that I found that, because I've been doing shadow work for an extremely long time, where I have found these things, and like the being bored thing. I mean, it's like, okay, this is what I do if I'm in the shadow side of being bored, and this is what I do if I'm in the golden side. Shadow side, I cause trouble. Golden side, I get more creative. So let me choose that one and focus on that. So,
and what you're talking about is the consciousness game. That's the awareness that helps us understand what we're unconscious to. And I call it the Goldilocks rule. What I'm seeing in everyone's hand is every line has a energy to it that we have. Either we're playing out too much of that energy, too little of that energy to find the just right. And I call it Goldilocks because Goldilocks didn't know it was too much until she had too little. You have to do the experience of it to understand where that I'm looking more towards the balancing point. So let me give you an example for those who have. Most common heart lines are the earth and water. And the waters are the nurturer, the giver. They want to do for everyone else. And they do not have a capacity to see how to put themselves in their own life. They're very outwardly oriented and focused. So they are looking for their approval outside of themselves. And how well is that going to work? It's never going to work because we have to.
Is so important.
And so we become the pleaser and the codependent, and we have prioritized everybody else's feelings first. And so we're going to have difficulty with feeling selfish if we say no. We feel guilty if we say no. There's a whole behavior there, and that's the unconscious programming. The conscious, what you were talking about, is being aware of my default is I care what everybody else thinks. Wait a minute, what do I need to do for me? And I have to plug in self-care for me. And the story I like to tell on this one, if you walk into any hospital, you're going to run into a nurse who's on 2 back-to-back 12-hour shifts. She's got 12 people on her ward that she's in charge of. She has never seen a gym, and she's not focused on any self-care whatsoever.
Right. It's always for
and the universe is going to intervene with a health crisis because she's not got any balance in the picture. Right. So we're blind to that because it's our unconscious archetypal program. And so we have to make it conscious. In other words, we have to be aware of, oh gosh, I give my power away all day, every day. How do I take it back? You first have to ask the question, how do I take my power back? How do I put me in the picture to start really making that change? And each one of these archetypes has that.
When I'm doing the heart math in the beginning, which is a modification of a heart. I mean, I'm modifying a heart math technique to fit sound healing and shamanism. And it's very much about coming into the head-heart connection and the harmony and fill ourselves first. We've got to fill ourselves with that harmony, our body, our mind, our spirit, our emotions, before we blow the bubbles out the heart chakra to offer it up as in service to the world. Because if we're depleting ourselves, we have nothing to give. I mean,
exactly. And if you have 4 whorls, 3 or 4 whorls in your fingerprint pattern, you are in the path of service. So you will also have to balance that need to serve others and serve yourself. And so every healer has this challenge that they have to figure out, how do I put me in the picture? Because the universe is not going to give you the opportunity to serve as a healer if you can't take care of yourself, and self-preservation has to be part of the picture. So you have to learn how to put the oxygen mask on you first.
Exactly. I had to learn that. It's hard to learn. Well, and it's interesting because I was literally taught by my mother that any kind of self-care was selfish.
Yes,
She
that's
was a
their
narcissist.
programming.
She was
They
a
were
narcissist,
raised that
and
way,
she
and so
went to
they
her.
believed it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she was a narcissist, so everything had to go to her. So if any of us any of the kids took care of ourselves, we were shamed and guilted because we were not focusing all that energy back on her. And and that was a really hard thing to unlearn. It
Oh,
still is
absolutely. Absolutely. Seriously difficult for you. And to be
Yeah.
made wrong about something that is a part of our nature.
Exactly.
And it is not something that on the student side, for most of us, we're not going to be able to learn how to take care of ourselves until we have some hard knocks in our life, where we're pushed to find the value in ourselves.
Yep, exactly. So we're at an hour, and I want to put something out here. Barbara can teach an online class in this, which I'm voting for that. So what I'll do in both Facebook and YouTube is put her email address. Email her and tell her that if you're interested, that you want to know more about the class because she's doing one in person in Dallas. If you're in Dallas, you can get it there. But yeah, this is really interesting stuff, and it's hard to translate over pictures, on the computer or the phone. But it'd be different in a class because then, we could do what we did. I sent you a picture of my hand, and you're like, me here.
There's so much that our hands can tell us, and I've done palmistry classes before, and most people are kind of interested in how does it stack up in my hand? I want to learn, what does it tell me about my hand? And so I love doing a class where we kind of go over the major things in a person's hand so that they can learn about themselves. So it's kind of like a book club, only it's your hand club.
a handbook club.
Yes. We go through each chapter.
I love it. So I'll put all that contact information in.
And the Heartline. Go ahead.
Well, what I'm going to say, because we're over. I don't like to go over because there's a bunch of people that are doing another live stream that all of us migrate over to. That would be Johnny and Jen and Becca. So what I'm going to do is close out with just a couple minutes of music.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope we answered some of your questions.
Okay, I'm going to change audio and go play a few bowls.
Thank you, dear. I'm going to mute. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hi, Adrian. Got the whole gang from last night here. We raised a bunch of money for the World Central Kitchen last night and today.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know if it was over $5,500 when I checked a few minutes before we started. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Barbara, thank you so much for edumacating us. Now I got to get some
Wonderful.
my fingerprints.
It was really fun, and I hope that we can post my Facebook page and so people can find out about any way that they might want
do that on both
connect
of
with
these.
me.
Over 5,600 now on our fundraiser, because the link is still live, by the way, and I have it was I can talk. We broadcasted it on Jen Lynn Tarot, and I have it in a playlist on my page under collaborations with other sacred ones.
And it's a fundraiser for
World Central Kitchen. The Jose, the beautiful one that goes to any kind of trauma place on the globe and cooks for people.
Oh, so fantastic.
We did good.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you're telling us where to go for that. So I can find it.
Either my page or Jen, because I just migrate stuff into playlists when I get to have fun with people. So Sandra, I am so glad you're playing with your bowl. Bowls. That's cool. Thank you all. Thank you, Barbara. Have a wonderful evening. And Jen, okay, whose channel are we on tonight? Who are you on? Becca's, I believe, for tonight's stream. Chef Jose Andres Charity. Yeah, he is Mr. God. Talk about Mr. Compassion. That guy is amazing. So, love you all.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to play with you and talk to you soon.
Yeah, and House of Lenormand, if you want to watch Jen Lynn and Becca and Johnny tonight, that's where they will be.
Say it again.
See you in House of Lenormand.
House of Lenormand.
Okay. Yeah, that's the name of her channel.
Okay.
And I will see you all next week.
Great.
Love you.